my ultimate responsibility as citizen is to do and take care of myself the best way that I can.
And you think the Constitution provides a good structure for America?
Good structure for that.
So everything involving the Constitution, all the amendments, you agree with all of them?
Pretty much all the amendments, because the amendments require 2/3 of the majority at both houses of the Congress and the Senate and the president's signature.
Hello, namaste, Zarna Garg here with the Zarna Garg Family Podcast. So excited to have all 5 Gargs in the house. Let me start right away by introducing my 7th grader, Veer Garg, my college freshman, Brij Garg, my college senior, Zoya Garg, and my husband of 25 years, Wall Street veteran, Shalab Garg. Today, we're going to talk about the topic of the day. It's in the air. It's everywhere. What do we know about politics? We are going to talk as a family about what do we know about politics? What are the things we believe? What are the things we're kind of suspicious about? Because everybody has a view on it. It is so hot that people get heated up if you even mention the word. But what do we actually know? Let's get right into it.
Okay, I'm going to tell you what I know.
Yes.
What I know is that it does not matter.
What
Politics
does not matter?
does not matter. Ultimately, this great nation of ours has been prospering since 1775. And for 300 years, we've had all kinds of presidents, all kinds of political policies, all kind of stuff. But so long as the Constitution is around to protect us, the country goes on and on and on and further ahead.
So you don't feel that you have any responsibility to shape the way the country continues to operate as you're a citizen?
I think that my ultimate responsibility as citizen is to do and take care of myself the best way that I can.
And you think the Constitution provides a good structure for America?
Good structure for that.
So everything involving the Constitution, all the amendments, you agree with all of them?
Pretty much all the amendments, because the amendments require 2/3 of the majority at both houses of the Congress and the Senate and the president's signature. So ultimately, it's the will of the So it's
but
the
that
will
can't
of the
happen. It'll never happen.
It has happened. There have been amendments.
But it can't anymore. It can't. Okay,
Right
actually,
now,
I'm going
it
to bring
cannot.
this up because this is a good point, and I'm really excited about this episode. I think out of everyone here, I'm the most excited about this episode because I just took my favorite class I've ever taken in my life, and that was an AP government, U.S. government, and history class. It was so good. My teacher, I've really connected with my teacher. He was a fantastic
Shout
teacher.
him out.
His name is Mr. Sprinkle. It was a cool name. He's an insanely great teacher. And I learned so much more about American politics, and that class made me realize how little everyone else knows about politics. It's no one's fault, because unless you take classes or you go out of your way to learn about it, it's just not possible to understand everything there is about the government. Yeah. There's so many complex things. Like, for example, Biden just tried to relieve a lot of student debt loans, but it didn't happen. The way he tried to do it was without any Congress support. The way he tried to do it was doing something called an executive order, which basically just means he's basically saying, I'm the president, I want this to happen, it's going to happen. But then the Congress is like, you don't actually have that power. And then the Supreme Court overruled him, and then it didn't happen. But that's like one thing that you wouldn't understand if you didn't actually understand what was going on, of the processes behind the actual decision making in Congress.
This really reminds me of, I also had 2 teachers in my high school, Dr. Abrams and Dr. Davis. We love shouting out high school teachers, especially the humanities ones. You do so much work for us, especially the New York City public school teachers. We adore you. And they taught a history and English American studies class that completely changed my life and how I think about politics. And I remember telling Dad, at some point during the class, I was like, Dad, I'm taking this history and English class. It's really changed the way that I think about my own responsibilities as somebody who lives in this country. And you told me, beta, I've never taken a history class.
Yeah, that's true. I've never taken a history class because, it was never required.
That's insane.
And, math and science and engineering was always more valued.
Marketable.
So in India, they just don't, they care about STEM.
They care about STEM. If you want, as a middle class kid, if you want to sort of rise up the ranks and get a job and all that, I mean, it's not that different here either, right? As a humanities kid, think about how hard it is to get a job. Who's going to hire you as a humanities kid?
But they still, all schools go out of their way to teach about it. I mean, it's not surprising to me that India is very heavily focused on mathematics and science, because obviously they produce.
But that doesn't mean that I'm not interested in politics.
Yeah,
I am interested. And as an all-knowing person, I kind of know a lot about a lot of different things, including but not limited to politics.
I'm just saying that if you think about how much that one class shaped your understanding of history and thereby your understanding of what's going on in the landscape today, can you think about what it's like to not have any of that base
No, I agree. That's another point I'm trying to
Okay,
make.
hold on. Just for a minute. My son loved this class and Mr. Sprinkle was amazing. But just so it's clear, he is an A+ student in biology, physics, and chemistry.
How is this related to
and
any of this?
extremely advanced
And
also
pre-med.
in maths.
Almost
and,
pre-med.
and extremely
I'm not-
advanced.
She just had an allergic
like,
reaction.
I don't know what.
I mean, any young women watching, please know that our son is pre-med.
I'm definitely not pre-med.
You were pre-med. We're going to talk about this. That's a separate episode. But
Okay, anyway, so what I want to say is also the other large thing when it comes to politics, especially in America, is the way that we can talk and debate over politics. People are very sensitive when it comes to the issues you support. And there's some topics that, in my opinion, you should have the right to be sensitive over because it's just a humanitarian issue. But it's important that you're able to respect the person you're speaking with and have respect for yourself while talking in a discussion or engaging in a debate about politics. That's the way that a society would be able to advance and learn more from each other and become more in agreement.
so do you think
Yeah.
that America is an honest democracy? That we are actually talking about everything and reaching
I mean, it is as honest a democracy as a democracy can be.
I was about to say that. It's extremely
Well, what does
difficult to
that
be
mean?
a perfect
I mean, like,
democracy,
yeah.
but as much as we can be while still maintaining good economic values, while still maintaining good social values and all the other types of important things, I think we're as good as
I mean,
we can
we've
be.
given women the right to vote.
Okay, I don't
Okay.
know what.
okay.
What?
I don't understand.
I mean, that's a big deal. In so many countries, they don't have it.
It is a big
No,
deal,
that's
but
true.
it's just the
And
way you said it.
legalizing gay marriage also was a huge, like, many countries don't even recognize gay people as like some
India,
sort of,
India deemed it criminal until 3 years ago.
yeah. Well,
Gay marriage in India is still illegal,
Still
right? You
illegal.
can
Gay
just be
marriage,
in a
I'm saying
relationship.
being gay was deemed illegal
like you
until 3 years
couldn't
ago.
be
Even
gay.
be out.
You couldn't be
yeah,
open.
but now that's legal, but gay marriage is not legal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in America, we did legalize gay marriage
Yeah, and I
earlier
think
than
that
most
brings me
countries.
to one point I feel about American politics is I think because there's so much going on in the world and there's so much wrong, and America is being put on like being held to the highest standards because it should, because it's such
It's
a
the
great
richest,
country.
most powerful country,
Yeah.
yeah.
But one thing that I think has gone lost is it feels taboo to say that you're really proud to be American.
Oh, yeah.
For some reason.
Why is it taboo?
I love
No,
being
no,
American.
but I'm saying that I don't know if this is
I love to be American.
no, but I think I don't know what it is, but I feel that people are not comfortable anymore saying outwardly that they are proud to be in this country. And I think that is something that I personally feel is very true for me. I don't think mom would not have her career if America wasn't a free speech place that was open to new ideas and you could start businesses.
I
and
mean,
were
I let her
incentivized
talk
to start
shit about my
businesses.
mother in this country.
Well, I mean, if you think that's highly American, then I'm happy that that's true too.
That is correct.
But I think there is
As an
something-
Indian man, I would be pelted in the streets of New Delhi.
I'm just saying that something about American politics and our inability to talk about things we disagree with has also led to a symptom case where people are afraid to say that they are proud to be American because it incites this understanding of nationalism that is obviously not good. But I think there's a step below nationalism that is just pride to be here and to stand for the things that the country stands for.
And another reason why it's scary to say that you're proud to be an American is for two major reasons. One, it feels like as an American and American politics, we keep going forward a little bit and then going backwards a lot.
Yeah.
For example, with like Roe v. Wade, that's obviously a huge loss. Like American politics, it wasn't good that it was overturned.
Wow. Let's not go there.
Wait, what?
I mean, why are we going there?
I agree with Brij.
I mean, like, come on.
voicing his
Like,
opinion.
whether a fetus is a human being or not is something
Okay,
don't-
we are not gonna get into it. He's just trying to stir the pot.
Okay, anyways, I personally think that was a bad decision. And I'm willing to conversate with anyone about it. It's not like I
Wait, can somebody
disagree
explain what
with
that is? What?
Half the
I know-
country
yeah.
believes it was
I
a
know
good
Roe v.
decision.
someone. Why doesn't Didi explain it? I think a man explaining it.
I can explain it, and I just want to point out something that Veer did that needs to be so much more acceptable.
Yeah, I agree.
He just asked, what is Roe v. Wade, right? Why is it so weird to not know what things are and ask the question, right? Like this whole educate yourself movement that's happening on social media, like if you don't know everything, then you're not being a good citizen. It's just so damaging. People don't know. You're allowed to ask
He's a
questions.
12
Well,
year old.
that
No, but I'm
movement
saying-
on social media is for social media. Because then what happens? He will look in TikTok and Instagram hashtag Roe v. Wade and increase their own user base. That's why they create all
No,
these
but I
things.
do agree with Didi. One of the major issues is no one's willing to admit that they don't know much about a topic.
You get
That's a major
penalized
issue.
for not knowing, and then you
Yeah.
get even further penalized for admitting that you don't know and then trying to ask the question. So I think Yeah, but Roe v. Wade was responsible for allowing women in America to get an abortion at clinics all over, including Planned Parenthood, and it reduces the ability for women to be able to do that on the basis of the timeline upon which they get pregnant.
So what was the old timeline and what's the new timeline?
Specifically, I don't know. I think if we
The
wanted to
old
get into it-
timeline was a little bit longer. Women could make the decision for a little while longer, and now the new timeline, I don't even know what exactly it is,
So what
but
it
it's
is
very
now-
short. Like now, some states are banning
Hold on.
it altogether.
It's okay. It's a little bit more nuanced than that. First of all, it's on the basis of a privacy matter. Is that when America was coming up with privacy laws, they were saying here are laws that everyone has. Everyone has the right to have their own privacy. That is an actual law that is in America. And so what women were arguing is that it's our privacy, it's our right to be able to do an abortion without anyone else speaking about our matters of our body and our choice, which makes sense to me, but other people obviously disagree with it. So what they're saying is it's not a privacy matter, it's a living matter. So then that's how they were overturning it. So now what they did is, at first when Roe v. Wade happened, it said every woman has the right to an abortion. Every woman can do it. So what overturning it did is basically saying now whatever state you're in, that state government gets to decide whether
Yeah.
you can get an abortion or not.
That was very well explained.
So what has New York decided?
So New York is saying you can get an abortion up to this amount of time,
which is a much longer part time because New
Yeah.
York is very liberal.
But for example, if you go to a very red state like Alabama, for
Or
example, or
Texas.
Texas, you can't get an abortion. They're just not going to let you.
Well, there are certain cities upon which you can do
Yeah.
it, but it's just made it far more difficult to
Yeah.
get a safe abortion, which is even scarier in cases where women are sexually assaulted or
Okay,
you know,
but let's come back to the idea of what do we know about politics,
Yeah.
because otherwise it is very impassioned to get
Okay,
into a
hold-
topic.
yeah, but-
where do you, like Brij, you know things. Where are you learning the things that you know and you're speaking about right now?
Okay.
What is your primary
First,
source?
what taught me the most and what got me the most interested was two things. One, class. When I took that AP Gov class, and I highly recommend, even if you're not able to get it in school, you should somewhat seek out some sort of professor, a teacher, or some online class. They have online classes for everything now after COVID, so you can definitely find one and enroll. Probably so many free courses too. And I would definitely take one of those courses. It teaches you so much. And second, I remember when I was with you, and we used to watch the news a while ago after the 2016 election, just because we were just curious about everything. And that honestly started my whole politic interest, just watching it with you, watching it with my parents, understanding how my parents think about politics. And just, the easiest way to tell how someone views politics is by their parents. That is a fact that they did so many experiments on. So it is really interesting to think about that. So when I was learning it with you, that got me the most interested.
But do you trust the news? Because
No, of
people
course
distrust
not.
the news. I myself don't trust
Yeah,
the
I don't
don't
even
trust
watch
the
the
news
news. Who watches
I
the
think
news
news-
anymore?
News are extremely biased. But so that speaks my
I
second
would rather
point.
news is presented as just facts of the situation as opposed to analysis of it, because then that
Yeah.
makes them take a position, and most of them do. Like CNN is like the worst possible news channel that one can have in this entire world.
God, I'm never going to get on CNN either.
Okay, anyways.
But BBC is fantastic, which presents generally a neutral perspective.
Isn't that in England?
Yes, you can.
English, yeah.
Yeah, but you can watch it here.
You can. They also
watch it
present American facts. Anyways,
Yeah.
so that to your point about where to get news, there is one news source that I would like to shout out because I've been using it a lot, and it's so no one uses it for some reason, even though I love it. It's just Apple News. So Apple, which we're all big fans of now, Apple.
We're not big fans of Apple.
Okay.
He's just mad
You
because he
just
didn't get
bought
his
a phone,
charger.
a new
I mean, I feel hostage to Apple, but I'm not a
Okay,
fan.
all right. Apple News. Yeah, go ahead.
So Apple has this app, and everyone's phone has it. It automatically starts on the app, obviously, because they
Of
want you to
course.
pay for their
Yeah.
thing. But it's really good. It basically presents news sources from like every single news source: CNN, Fox News, ABC News, every single different thing. It presents articles from every single one. So you're not held to just one news source. For example, if you're just watching Fox News, you're going to get a little bit more of a conservative stance on many issues. If you're just watching CNN, you'll probably get more liberal stances on issues, or Washington, right? But this has all of them. It has every single news article, and it puts so many so that you get so many different perspectives just off the headlines. The headlines alone will give you so much
Yeah.
information about what will be
I
said
didn't know that, Brij.
and
That's
spoken
pretty smart.
about.
I'll tell you what I like most. Post-COVID, what has changed in news dissemination is that you can read by paid articles a lot more about politics.
like
You can-
each article at a time.
at a time.
Right.
Right. For example,
So you
The
don't have to
Economist-
subscribe to the whole
magazine,
thing.
right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Economist has these editorial articles that I love to read, and I can buy one article at a time that I want to read.
Mm.
And then that person will have spent an inordinate amount of time to analyze that issue and present facts in his or her opinion
Mm.
in a good way. So I feel like writing and written form of journalism has actually become a lot better, because at least now it's known what has value and what doesn't have value. Like the way value was described 20 years ago, where magazines were just selling magazines and you had to buy the whole magazine. It doesn't happen that anymore because nobody has time or necessity for buying a whole
I'll
magazine.
take it one step further. I get my news from X.
I do.
From Twitter.
Well,
I know.
Twitter,
That's so
X,
bad.
whatever you want to call it. People call it X now, but that's what it is. But
Yeah.
I get my news from X. I'm all over it every morning. I want to know what's going on in the world, and I think what Dad just said about how he likes that there's no larger party that's designating what's important and what's not anymore. I think X or Twitter, that platform does it better than anything, because
Yeah.
news and what's important is designated entirely by what people are talking about. And I find reading people's opinions and then,
But they don't censor anything, right? Or do they?
I mean,
Not anymore, I don't know.
think they censor it. I do think their algorithm guides what you end up
Totally.
seeing.
Yeah.
But I think it's impossible to keep up with the speed of X.
Yeah.
No well-written research
Yeah, it's not
article
possible.
can keep up with the real-timeness of how things pop up on X. And every world thinker is on it, commenting on it in
Yeah.
real life. Like,
Yeah, you
don't
can't
even
buy
have
that
to wait for...
direct to
Can
source.
I want to make a point. I think a lot of learning about politics but I know you're going to want to jump in here, but like, let me finish. So basically, I think a lot of the learning about politics for kids my age is through like TikTok. And like, I'm a victim of that myself. And I know it's an issue, so I'm trying to stop that. But I think like a lot of people put too much trust into social media.
But when you watch a TikTok about something or somebody, do you immediately believe it or do you question it in your head? Do you read the
Kinda.
comments?
Like,
do you read the comments? Do
If
you
it's something so outrageous that I just know, like I'll know. But
Right.
like I feel like if it's a well-made video, like the better made the video is, the more like you feel like you want to trust.
But that's dangerous because
Exactly.
anyone can make a well-made video.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is dangerous.
That's why they make the well-made videos, because it makes it seem like it's more professional.
makes them seem more trustworthy.
I also like, this is specific to Indian politics, the debate between people I like a lot too.
Yeah.
About political views, political.
That I actually
opinions.
do think that even in America, when the political debates happen, it's very informing, right? You learn so much about the candidates, you learn about their temperament, you learn actually what they're thinking in one place rather than drips and drabs of fragments of information all over the place. I personally enjoy the debates. I think America does. I think the world does. I think it's a very unique Indian thing. Like, I don't remember watching a debate in India.
No, not like between candidates.
Like between the two main candidates saying,
but
I
they will
believe.
be, on regular channels, they will have representatives from various parties who would then talk about a specific topic.
Right. But this is so direct. This is like the candidate himself or herself saying,
But there's
I
only two
will
or
do
three-
this.
There's only two, maybe at most three presidential debates, right?
Right.
It's not that many that you can watch.
So now another question. Are you guys nervous to talk about politics around your peer group,
Yes.
your friends?
Oh, yes.
Kind
100%.
of.
I think that's only because
I think it's like very like, I don't know. I feel like arguing with a lot of people, they're just super like one of my best friends. Like I know he's watching this right now and he's just gonna be like Veer, what are you saying? And he's gonna get mad at me later for saying this. But he's super stubborn, and it's so annoying to argue with him because he will not change his point of view. And I think that's like with a lot of my friends, like they learn all their stuff from their parents, as I do with you guys. And I just think they're too stubborn. Like I'll change my point of view and I'll admit to
Why?
being wrong.
We're teaching you all the right things. Why do you have to be the one?
That's the
teaching
issue.
the
It's
point?
such an issue. Parent
Yeah.
influence over children.
If
in
somebody
politics is such an
proves
issue.
me wrong, I will admit to being wrong. Unless it's him. If it's him, I won't. But if it's one of my friends, I will admit to being wrong, and you guys can hold me to that. But I just hate having arguments with people who are stubborn because they just will not change their point of views. And I think that really like connects to politics and how people.
I think
about
the
politics.
classroom setting is the only setting left in the world where I feel comfortable talking about politics, with the idea that the teacher or professor will serve as a measured safeguard for people to have opinions and questions. I actually think that's probably one of the only spaces I feel comfortable sharing.
But you do feel, let's say you were to take a counter position, because we live in a very liberal state
Yeah.
in New York.
Yeah.
You feel like you could voice a very conservative opinion and be protected by your teacher?
I feel that I have gotten lucky with my teachers, but I would say that that's true maybe half of the time.
Right.
For sure, there are definitely classrooms and teachers who are informed entirely by their own bias, and they teach that to their students. But I like to think that a lot of teachers are actively, especially history teachers who know how important political diversity of thought is, they're really trying to preserve that. Especially at the college level, I think it's a lot easier to find.
Really? Are you seeing that?
I mean, I found that, in my history, especially, I think history class is so important because history is not present day, but it allows you to take lessons from history to understand present day better, which feels like a softer way of having conversations about what's happening now.
Right. Do you have that experience, Brij? Because I feel
I don't trust the teacher. I don't trust students. I've seen students get bad grades on papers because they took a different, more conservative stance in a very liberal school. In my school specifically, there's no place I feel comfortable. Barely any students that I would feel. There's some of my close friends I feel comfortable speaking about politics with. But if someone were to
And that to you includes presidential politics,
doesn't matter.
Issue specific.
People
as
take
well?
it so personally. You can't have a conversation with someone, and everyone likes to say a lot of people like to say, "Oh, I can put the politics to the side," but they really can't. Like if I were to come out as like an extreme conservative, a lot of people who are liberal of my friends would not hang out with me as much. They wouldn't speak to me as much because they hold it against me. And I'm not saying I'm obviously not an extreme conservative. I'm just giving that as an example.
Yeah.
But that's honestly how it is. So especially with it, I think the American public school system is like, there's a lot of flaws in it, especially in New York. I think especially in New York, there's a lot of flaws in it. And one of the biggest flaws in my school was how much power students had over teachers. And because students had so much power over the teachers were just willing to conform with the majority of students. They just didn't want to make so many students upset, so they would just go along with them. So if we were having a debate in class, which we often have debate in history class, for example, and I or some other student would make a dissenting opinion, it would become the teacher kind of can't give you props or can't acknowledge you making a good statement, but will acknowledge the other side because they need to stay on the good side of students. I don't think that would happen. I think teachers should always have some level of like understanding that no matter what, their job is safe, that students can't, the principal won't get mad at them or administration won't get mad at them because the students are complaining. And because that doesn't exist, they just conform with them, especially at the school that I went.
And it's not their
a good
fault.
point.
They deserve to have that protection too.
Yeah, I agree. They definitely
think
should.
One place where I've seen political thought be actually considered is comedy clubs, right? Like seeing how much, obviously we've spent a lot of time in green rooms of comedy clubs, at other comedy shows. And my favorite way to understand the political fabric of this country is watching really sharp comedians talk about what they, what they're thinking, how they're going to push the line on certain things. I feel like you've made, Mom, so many political jokes that have really like helped other people understand different perspectives. In many ways, your set is highly political.
And
why you say that?
but no,
it's not directly political.
It's not Republican and Democrat political, but it makes political statements. But you know what's interesting? I just found out that the news people and all these reporters are looking for women to speak on politics, and the women comics are just not doing it.
Yeah.
They refuse to do it. They're too scared. They're too nervous of jeopardizing their careers. It is a thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like I need to say something because we also live in this world. Every law that is made affects us too, all the policies. But I want to come back for a minute to what Veer said about the stubbornness and having stubborn friends, because it feels like the right time to drop a quote. My favorite quote of all times. Are you guys ready
I'm
for
ready.
it?
You always say it's the favorite quote of all time.
have
Okay,
a new
sometimes
favorite
this
every
is the
time.
most favorite. This is the most favorite. My favorite quote of all time. Nobody is more blind than the person who doesn't want to see. So if you're reasoning with somebody and that person has made up their mind, there is nothing you're going to do. He's just going to sit there and be like, no. They're not even listening.
It gets
They're
to a
not
point
getting-
where
you're
you're
not
just
gonna
like
get
talking
through.
to a wall.
Yeah. But it's interesting for me to know where you guys are getting your information, what you're learning. Like, do you feel like you're ready to make a decision for the presidential election? Not to say who you will make a decision for, but do you feel like I have a good grip on
Brij,
what this
it'll be your
person
first
is
time
about?
voting, actually,
And
for
it's
the-
going to be your first time voting, yeah.
I think I know who I'm going to vote for.
Yeah, but you feel like you know what this person's about, what they stand for, and you feel that you agree with at least enough to want to cast a vote for them.
I feel like I do, but I don't think majority of people do. I just don't see how people are going to take the time to really research and understand what presidents have done, what they did in their previous terms, especially like talking about this election, because we've seen what Trump did in his previous term and what he's promising to do. We haven't seen what Kamala did, but we did see what Biden did. So it was very
we saw what she did as a
representative.
vice president.
We saw what she did as a vice president, but I think that it's extremely, you have to do a lot of research. And there's one thing that actually Mr. Sprinkle, my AP government teacher, showed me that was extremely helpful to learn about this type of stuff and who you want to vote for, is there's a lot of online polls that you can take, that taking those polls will extremely help you learn about politics and learn about your politician, or give you a quiz and be like, what do you think this person stands for? And then at the end, show you this is what that person actually thinks. And it'll even cite 100 million sources. So it's not, fabricated. And I think honestly, if I were to just quickly try and see what presidents think, what side I align with, I would go online and find a couple one of those, especially the New York Times ones, because I guess we're in New York, so that's biased, but those are the ones I took, and they were really good. They really helped me see what political values I was.
I think, Brij, you're actually representing a minority of people our age, because a lot of kids our age just don't vote.
Is that true?
Yeah, that's like one of the biggest.
We're the lowest voting.
That is,
But why? I mean, everything that happens in this country affects you guys too.
it's a matter of how people have prioritized. It's a matter of people living in a digital world now where they're not used to actually doing the work of paperwork and things like that. And
Oh, like actually.
So is it not
Yeah.
wanting to do it?
also,
Just
I
being
So
think
it's a
lazy?
value of matter too, because in New York, for example, I'm gonna vote in New York, but no matter what, my vote is like pretty much already decided. Who New York's gonna choose as the candidate they're gonna give their votes to is pretty much decided. In California, it's definitely decided even more than
I think
New York.
it's extremely crucial for every person to vote.
Yeah,
One thing that
I
I was
agree.
reading about that is kind of a side tangent is people don't know what an adult is anymore. Like, since we're not learning to drive at the same rate at which people would like immediately learn how to drive when they turned 18, and people aren't voting, and people aren't like learning how to pay their taxes really early in their lives because, getting an actual, tax paying job has become more and more hard. Like, I think some of the things that like transform you into an adult, these things like including voting, it doesn't feel like as much of a priority for some people, and it really is. And so, yeah, I mean, I definitely think the most important thing you can do if you're a young person is vote and register to vote. There are a lot of resources. You can DM me and I can send you some of them. I'm like really passionate about this. So yeah.
So, question for you, speaking of most important things or not, what is the most important thing for you when you're considering who to vote for? What is the topic that you're like, is it women's rights? Is it the economy? Is it immigration? Is it border control? Is it something else? Is it health and
To
nutrition?
me, it is status quo. When I'm looking to vote for someone, I'm hoping that person will leave the rules and regulations of the country alone.
You mean the constitution
Alone.
and all the rules?
And then
all.
just let it be. And let
You said
business
status
guide-
quo?
a very conservative stance.
So let the business guide the country as the business has guided the country for 300 plus years.
Okay. All right. How about for you guys? I know for me it's
I
the
think
economy.
I was about to say, I think the economy is definitely
Because
up there.
I think the money is the root of everything. Until
But that's the thing, a president cannot really impact the economy, right? Think about it, all the presidents that we've been through. What president would you attribute
No, but
anything
they
about the economy to?
They do shape some policies. They do make appointments that, they appoint the Federal Reserve
I
Chairman.
know, but that's what I'm
So-
saying.
they
like,
appoint everything. Yeah.
They
Do a
yes.
lot.
Yeah, they
but
cannot
these are
control
very
it.
temporary. You're talking about 4 years at a time, right?
Yeah.
I know, but the answer is not, no one's going to influence anything, so nothing matters. Because that's
Also,
pretty
they
much
set
how
up
it
the
sounds.
future
what you're
of the they leave a lot with it. For example, what the most important thing, in my opinion, a president does is their Supreme Justice appointment.
Yes.
I think that's the most important thing any president can
Who do you think has been the very influential president?
Trump. Look at how many conservatives he appointed to the Supreme Court. And it has changed how decisions are made in this.
It's changed everything.
I agree with you in overall principle that we have to have faith that this country will survive the ups and downs and all of that. But that is not to say that every 4-year cycle and every micro decision is not important. That's what I'm saying.
extremely important.
Like for you, me, it's the economy. Number one, are there jobs being created? Are people feeling productive? Are they feeling like they're getting paid? Very, very important. How about for you?
I think the economy is the most important thing for me as well.
Yeah. Veer?
I think for me, I'm not like a deep politician person, but for me, it's border control because it's just kind of scary to think that somebody can lace your medicine. Like that is just a really
yeah.
scary thought,
Yes.
and I just don't want that to be a thought.
Right.
Like I don't understand why anybody any person should be concerned about that when there's so many more things that like could be more important.
I would agree
That's
with
true.
that. Zoya, what did you say was the top of your...
I mean, I definitely think a lot of the things that people have said are important to me. I do think that social issues are really important to me, how the president informs, very big topics of women's rights, the ability to speak freely, especially, I think, the language that a president uses, right? Now, in the way that a president talks about America and its people has become more important than ever because their words are transmitted so quickly and have such a large impact on people because, it's the way that people directly view their own day-to-day lives, and it's incited violence and it's incited protest, and I that's super important to me, the way that the president carries themselves and by extension the image that they provide America.
Got it. So anyway, this was our episode on what do we know about politics. It's designed to get people just talking about what do we know. This is not meant to start a fight in anybody's household or workplace and finger pointing and all. It's just, let's start with what do we actually know to be true? Because there's so much misinformation out there that I, as a parent, was curious what my kids knew. I'm very curious what my husband knew because we also don't talk about it. We disagree actively on a lot of things. So this has been a really fun episode for me personally, and I hope you guys got a conversation started. And as we wrap every episode with a riveting section called Good Grades with Gargs, we each assign somebody in this group an A grade based on the winning moment of the podcast, something that they brought from entertainment, enlightenment, any point of view that kind of became the aha moment for them. So we're going to go through a round and assign a good grade. And in the meantime, I urge you to please hit us up in comments. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you know about politics, who you trust, where are you getting the news, and most importantly, who got the good grade in today's grade. So who wants to go first?
I'm ready.
You want?
I am going to give my A grade to Brij for bringing up how important history class is, and by extension to Mr. Sprinkles, to Dr. Abrams, to Dr. Davis. I would not have been a politically active citizen in any capacity if it weren't for my English and history teachers, especially when you come from a family of immigrants who were not born and raised here, right? Like, I think a lot of American kids hold all the kids in their class to a standard that they don't understand that most kids actually don't have in this country. Like, most kids don't grow up with parents that watch the news and grew up reading history books about America and its founding fathers and all that stuff. And I remember, taking my first American history class, not knowing so much, and my teacher being so open to, educating me on a lot of different things that I wouldn't understand and wouldn't appreciate today. So Brij with all the teachers that have helped us get here, because I think it's important.
I think teachers really influence people.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
You're with them for hours and hours every day for years. Who wants to go next? Good grade with Gargs.
I'll go next.
Okay,
I was
go.
going to give my A grade to Didi for a different point, but I'll give it to this point now because I think she trumped her own point with about what you just said about how I never thought about the fact that we never grew up with parents who understood American history or even considered American history until they did their own research as adults. And I think there's a large population of American citizens that just don't have the similar experiences to us, where their parents don't look at American history and don't care about American history. And I'm sure there's people in other countries too, where your parents maybe immigrated from a different country there and you don't understand your own country's history because your parents never informed you or told you about it. Mm-hmm. So that's a very interesting point and something to think about when you're learning history for yourself. And I think it's a major, major issue that people aren't forced, I guess, to take American politics class or any politics class for whatever country you're in. I think it's a very necessary thing because I don't know how I could be such a American citizen and understand politics the way I do without taking that class. I just don't know how it's possible unless you were able to discipline yourself to take your own course. It's just very difficult. So my message from this is just to urge everyone to take some sort of, it doesn't even have to be class, just some sort of reading. Maybe read a book about politics and what it means.
With a group of kids.
With a group of kids. It's really important to speak to other students about this while you're learning. Actually, that's a good point too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll
good
give
grades
mine
with Garg.
to Veer.
Okay.
I thought the border control point was very strong and very unique. And I'm very surprised he even sort of noticed something so nuanced, So it's pretty awesome.
I'm giving my A grade to Baya because I think his passion for history and politics is really cool. That's it.
And I'm going to give my A grade also to my son Brij, because even though he's an A+ student in biology, chemistry, physics, and math, he is passionate about American studies and history on the side as a project. He listens to a lot of podcasts. He knows he's going to learn all this stuff in addition to what he's going to do in STEM, which is the most important thing. But thank you so much for dialing in, for tuning in, for listening in. We want to hear everything from you. What you know, what you don't know, what you care about. Tell us who got the A grade, and we can't wait to see you again. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.